we are a little bit jumping here and there um, to different topics that are going to be elaborated further. So today, because it's Sukkot, I thought that I will give this a little bit of hint of what is coming, which is this. This is front page of Sefer Haot, of the Book of the Sign, of the Roma Angelica. Uh, Roma Angelica library, manuscript number 5. It's one of the 8. Some people claim that there are 9 manuscripts left of Sefer Haot, but this one is very interesting because we know that the reader of this exemplar put a note. I don't have this page with the note, but I consulted it with the National Library of Israel, and I got the note, what is written there, and we will read that the reader was actually studying on Sukkot, and not only on Sukkot. The reader writes, as we will see, that he studied it on Thursday, in the middle days of Sukkot. So it's like today we are also studying again, and it's just, there is this expression in Judaism, "Ein mikriyut ba'olam hazeh." There is no coincidence in this world. And I really like it that, wow, it starts to become a really interesting thing that 3 times in a row, we have always something not planned related to some rhythms and some things already mentioned in some sources. And the first time it was because we started on the 25th of Elul, which was very significant date for Abulafia. Then we had a fast of Gedalia, and we spoke also about fasting as one of the preparations of techniques. And today there is a day that is on this day, 100 and something years ago. Someone was also studying Rav Abulafia, and he made a note about it. So, without delving into the content of Sefer Haot right now, although we will, because it's always somewhere here and there, but not in depth. I would like to, sorry, I would like to translate to you a brief translation from my Latin, more or less, as I understand it. What is here on this site by Latin scribe? This is not the note by the reader. The reader we will have it later. So this says here. For some reason, they called this book the Latin scribe or Latin librarian wrote. That's the book of the Ezra, like Ezra, one of the prophets. By the way, Sefer Haot has plenty of names. Book Raziel, book Sefer Zechariahu, Sefer Zecharia, the alter ego of Abulafia. But this is also very interesting that this one was called Sefer Ezra. The mouth of the Lord spoke. This is the first pasuk here, first sentence. Et pi Hashem kidashti me'as. That the mouth of the Hashem. I Abulafia, I sanctified, and they also translated not very correctly into Latin. And there is something about some with other small works of Basil, maybe I don't know, maybe in the codex there were additional texts. Sefer Hod itself is pretty short, and it's mentioned that collected the son of Abu Abraham, the son of Samuel Abulafia, and relating to the theory of Kabbalism. And it was also mentioned what is the in italic characters. The script is Italian. This square script is different from the Spanish or Eastern. We'll see it when we'll be talking about the manuscripts of Sepharad. We'll compare different scripts and very interesting things about the manuscripts themselves. I must tell you honestly, I love manuscripts. I just like to spend times with them. It's so intimate, so beautiful. It's like you can really meditate and you can forget about time when you analyze some details in manuscripts. It's just I regret that I don't have any in physical form, but I'm so happy that there is such a possibility to access the digital ones because you can just really spend times and find so many details in them. So I was happy to make this critical edition of Sefer Haot because I spent really literally 1 year every day, couple of hours just on the manuscripts. It was beautiful time. So still I cherish it. So on the page that I don't have, but I consulted it with the catalogist of the National Library. It's written I and the acronym Yud Aleph Pe Zayin, but it is being decoded as Israel Isidor ben Moshe Perach Zahav Goldblum. So Perach Zahav was his nickname, and he lived in end of 19th century, beginning of 20th century, from Paris. I have been studying. I have studied in depth this book on Thursday, Chol HaMoed Sukkot. Today we have Thursday's Chol HaMoed Sukkot. Very nice. He was studying in 5649, so it was October 1881. So it's 100 something, yeah, 100, I think 39 years ago, if I count correctly, and copied from it the most important topics. So just wanted to start with very beautiful travel in time to our brother Israel Isidor ben Moshe Perach, Zahav Goldblum, that his memory be a blessing, that it is so nice to connect with his soul and study also Abulafia with him together. So we start today with the topic of, we continue with Urim and Tumim, the lights and the completions, those objects that a priest had on his chest, on the breastplate. Because I mentioned last time, just for memorization, that the name 72 is based, the whole concept is that in tradition, it is the true Urim and Tumim, this divinatory and also prophesying and the device to prophesy tool. So we'll see the sources. That's why this part is called theory a little bit more. What is behind the practice of the technique of breathing, movements of the head in 6 directions, breathing in, breathing out, expressing the name in a very specific utterances. And the theory is that it's related to the tradition of Urim and Tumim. So a little bit of coming back to the Talmud. It was used by a high priest. I will show you. Here is more or less how it looked like. This is the interpretation how the high priest would look like. I will speak about it, what I noted here, just to explain further. And there were 12 crystal stones, precious stones, gems on this pectoral, on this breastplate, and each of these 12 were assigned traditional to one of the tribe. There are different traditions how to actually identify which stone was it. It's apparently not so much known for sure, because there are different traditions. For example, there is a stone that is called yashpe, and people really say that this is beryl or that this is emerald, but for me, etymologically speaking, it would be the best to say jaspis. Yashpe is jaspis, and there is whole tradition to say that this is jaspis. So, but still, it's unsure. What is important, those gems were behaving like those kind of lights that were lighting out and in and out whenever there was a question. The question was being asked, and specific lights and specific letters on the lights on the specific stones were lighting out. And also they were working as a mirrors. This I'm hinting into right now because we will be repeating about it quite a lot. That this is very important. So Urim and Tumim, I'm just reading also from here, were used to receive divine pronouncements, spelling out responses through the protruding letters on the stones. And again, there is a basic tradition says that what are the letters on the stones? They were names of the tribes. But names of the tribes do not contain all the letters. Also, the name 72 do not contain all the letters. Rather, the tradition that follows that actually Urim and Tumim were connected to the name 72. I mean, those 3 verses that combined in a specific way from the group of 216 in the threefold triplets give us those 72 triplets. By the way, you might find in the literature it's the name of 72 letters. It's not the name of 72 letters. It's the name of 72 because the letters are 216, 3 times 72. But there are 72 triplets. Those triplets are the units, basic units to operate with. Okay. So again, I just made just combined the basic information that we in general literature what speaks about it, because we want to have just the background. We don't study the Urim and Tumim from the Talmud. We just want to have it as a background to understand how is it connected according to pre-Abulafian literature and also Abulafia himself and also his student. How is it connected to the prophetic skills that one receives by using this device. Device is by Abulafia is named 72, but it's being continuously compared to Urim and Tumim. So again, Urim and Tumim, it means lights, and latum, to completions. And I would like to imagine that this is the lights is because of the lightning out when the question is being given, and the completion is when the answer is there. So the answer is from the within. There is some sort of a dialogue with this used to be device, but within the name 72, the reasoning is the same, that it works like this, dialectical. So decision making and oracular device, the device, it's all mentioned here. It's also called breastpiece of this breastpiece of decision. The breastpiece itself was sometimes called the breastpiece of decision, Choshen Hamishpat, and the word Choshen here and Mishpat, Choshen Mishpat, the breastplate of the law. What is the decision to be made if there is a question? And it was used quite often. Should we go to the war? And some letters would light out the answer, which was always to be interpreted. And what is important for us, it looks like it's not said explicitly in a Torah, in a Tanakh, but it looks like it was a practice of itself to use it. And most probably, as long as our interpreters, whom we will see soon, their sources, statements that actually Urim and Tumim was the name of 72, it looks like it was just not explicated practice of the same or similar technique like Rav Abulafia was using. Again, there is a hint in that all those things that we are learning about Abulafia, they are really ancient. Again, we can extrapolate from this. Yet another hint that we spoke with Valerie before you, Francesco, joined, how much we cherish actually the language of Moshe Idel, and I cherish even more comparing to language of Gershom Scholem, because Moshe Idel gives those hints that it might be that those traditions, the more we know about Kabbalah, it looks like that this is much, much, much earlier. And about that, I will also hint maybe on the next meetings.
Já deixo o cara conversa um Zoom. Venga. Fins ara. Adéu.
Hello. Javi? Okay. Javier, okay. Nice to meet you. All right. Nice to join. And this is a hint to that most probably it is pretty much ancient. We cannot be sure, so let's just keep to that this is the interpretation from the medieval times, medieval sources, that Urim and Tumim is the name 72, or it's identified with it. So they already mentioned the word Choshen is just a little bit of digression. If the Kohen Agadol, the main Kohen, the grand priest, is actually doing something for the sake of the Am Israel, the people of Israel, there must be, with the usage of the thing that is called Choshen, there might be some sort of allusion that he is acting against some powers that he's opposing. So the beauty of this is that it's many places like this you might find, but this is one of the most beautiful. Choshen is an anagram, not direct anagram like from backside, but when you change the order, you have Nachash. It's like a tool to put Nachash, the powers of fluidity of time, the untamed, I would say, um, element of life. Like that's why it's also called the beast. Also in Christian tradition of John, Apocalypse of John, is is mentioned as a beast because this is the untamed life, the life that is very powerful but purposeless. It has to be tamed, it has to be processed into some rules. And Hoshen is the tool to put the life into some sort of order, into some sort of direction, into some sort of sense. That is a life that's supposed to serve, for example, connection with God, not just a life that repeats itself and stays in the circle of incarnations and repetitiveness and biological repetition, reformulation, reiteration. So here is a little bit of the hint. What I would like to also show us that Hebrew divination based on Choshen and based on of this breastplate on the Urim and Tumim and on the name 72 is contradicted to the Egyptian way of divinating, for which we have a lot of hints uh, in the Bible itself. For example, Joseph, when he comes there, he is using his chalice and he is using a fluid. He's using the liquid to divinate. However, we are using the crystals. It's like crystallized time. It's a little bit different approach and also different usage of the objects to achieve the different understanding of the symbolism. Whereas Egyptian divination is based on the fluidity of time that is repetitive, but it's still fluid, still untamed. We are using the crystals, which is like crystallized time. Crystallized time, it means that we are above time. As we know, also we hinted at about it last meeting. Ivriim, Hebrews, are those who pass through the waters of the sea of the end, Yam Sof. And Egypt is left there in their own waters of pain, of affliction, of compression. Because the name Mitzrayim, as we can see here, has the two letters Mem at the beginning, Mem at the beginning, and at the end, and in the middle you have Tsar, which is like something to put in oppression, but the waters are oppressing. Waters are making this the borders. Another explanation, quite let's say according to Pshat, according to the literal meaning, is just because it was a land of channels. There was a main river, Nile, and still it is, and there are channels. So you put the waters into some tsorim, into tsar. It's the channels, and you are irrigating the land like this, the land of irrigation. And also this is a form dualis, which is like Mitzrayim. It's like dualis, like raglaim, the legs, something that is two. So Mitzrayim is like there's upper and lower Egypt, as we know, the white and the red one. And the whole concept is still again that the main object of the worship, I'm very simplifying the Egyptian mythology, is Nile, and this is the main water channel. And as we remember, Nile had the, I'm jumping a little bit here. Where did I put it? Ah, yes. Uh, I'm sorry, I didn't put everything in the right order. The Nile is, let's focus on the left side here. 216 is the gematria of Hayeor, the name of the Nile, and also what Pharaoh was feeling. He was waking up, and there, this is in tradition is being mentioned as a allusion to the technique of divination, Egyptian one, and we have also the same elements. This 216 is our letters for our crystallized time divination, which belongs to the god that is above the time. whereas the gods of Egypt are part of the creation. We serve and we perform divination with relation to Hashem, with the tetragram and the crystals of Urim and Tumim. So I'm just jumping here a little bit because we will speak about this part from, this is a text of Abulafia. We'll speak about it further in one moment. So this a little bit of giving some hints about Urim and Tumim and how is it actually related. So as you remember, the table of the name that we achieved from combinations can be said in different orders. And if you see here on the Hoshen Mishpat, on this breastplate, on the Kohen, they were divided into 12 in the 3 rows, but by 4 columns. So in each one, we assume that Urim and Tumim was a part. Those names and those pronunciations were part of it. First, or each of the crystals, or not crystals, each of the gems contains 6 of them. Yeah. So I just marked here with different colors that in the first, for example, in the first crystal, there would be the triplets Va, He, Va, Yo, La, Yo, Sayote, Amale, Alame, Mehesi, La, La, He. They would be there. And the technique mentioned already in Talmud speaks that each time there would be a question, some specific letters of those triplets would lighten out and they would give the sentence the answer, or the triplets themselves. Or it was also like both, as I said, technique and also a place to receive results of the technique. I believe both. We cannot be sure how was it, that we don't have any sources about the techniques in the ancient times. However, Abulafia and his students are mentioning that this is actually working as a mirrors. They are speaking to you with the prophecy because both the elements, the letters, are serving to you as a tool to make your mind into your prophetic mode, but also then you receive the visions of those letters and visions of lights, visions of different colors, and many things are happening allegedly. Like I say, this technique requires a lot of time spent in seclusion, and I can just trust those who are performing it that this is giving the results, and I don't have any reason not to trust the results that they are mentioning. So those colors here are giving you the hint how it will be divided. I could actually prepare a much better, let's say, visualization of this, but this gives you a hint that it can be this whole group of 216 letters divided into 72 triplets can be further divided into 12 objects, those gems containing 6 of each of them. So this is what we have to remember here. So, and here goes the beautiful thing, because there is this commentary of Bal Haturim, and he of Rav Yaakov ben Asher. He was actually living for a short time in Gerona. He was coming from Hasidei Ashkenaz, and he wrote this beautiful gematric commentary to the Torah. And he in Shemot, in Exodus 28:30, he claims, and this is what actually Abulafia is quoting, but without mentioning him, that Urim and Tumim are the light of Israel, and they are also the name 72. By the way, I really like that people really on internet and even scholars, they quote without checking. So I learned the habit. I had really good teacher. Don't publish things before you check. Don't just rely, even on Bal Haturim. So actually, Bal Haturim also have tendency to not to make mistakes, but he is just not clear sometimes, and the publishers just keep repeating without actually delving into that. So I think 1 month ago I started to actually check those things again, and I also reviewed it even yesterday again. And if you actually would count those things, those letters from the excerpt of Bal Haturim commentary, you wouldn't get those numbers. You have to, sometimes Hebrew has this beautiful opportunity that you can remove, for example, yud. You can write things without yud, and then you have a chirek as in order to get the same word. But like, for example, Yaakov, you can write with vav and without vav. You can write plenty of names with a specific letter or without specific letter, and it's still valid because they are just variants. But here, the publisher from Sepharia, where I used the quote, they actually didn't check it, and but I checked that this is actually right. But the way they spell it here is not correct, because then you wouldn't achieve this equation. And again, as you can see, these are not exact gematria. They are gematria according to Im HaKolel rule. Like, there is a difference of one. It's still valid gematria. It gives a connection, but I honestly, as a gematria lover, I always follow also the rule of my teacher, who said the lowest is the number, the strongest is the connection. Why? Because when you get to the rule of big numbers, you enter into the probabilistics. And gematria of 1571 or 72 is just big enough that you can actually a little bit make combination to match it. Then again, Bal Haturim was not a combinatorist, that he wanted to really build up a whole exegesis. He had a tradition that was passed by to him. And many of his gematria, he says, I got it from my teachers. I got it from the Mesorah. I got it from the previous generations. What is important here, he is making exact connection between et ha'urim ve et ha'tumim, ken shem shivim shtaim. It's written here shivim ushtaim, but shivim shtaim without yud and without vav gives you this gematria. Otherwise, it's 16. The value is 16 more. It's plus 16. So you cannot have this gematria with vav and with yud. And without yud also, it's above the urim vetumim, or Israel. The light of Israel is this gematria 749 and 748. What is important here, Abulafia knew about it and he's quoting it. So this is our, let's say, blueprint. This is our gematrical, one of the proofs that this is it. This is connected to each other. Both things are connected. How is it actually with the sources? So we have the excerpt from text of Moshe Idel. Here he mentions it. Let's read from the middle, like Rav Yaakov ben Asher, the Bal Haturim, already mentioned, wrote in his commentary on Shemot 28:30 that the phrase Urim and Tumim equals in Gematria the name of 72 letters. And the similar tradition we have in Zohar. Again, the connections between Zohar and Abulafias are very beautiful. They are definitely not being part of the same lore, but because there are different traditions quoted here and there with some variants, it's really showing that there is some connection between both of them. And it is, and Zohar says, and it is customary in the 72 letters inscribed, which are the secret of the holy name. The holy name here, we are talking the name 72. And all of them are called Urim and Tumim. And yet another tradition, Rav Meshulam Sarfati, also more or less the same period, which we received from the book Raziel. There are plenty of books Raziel. The God is my secret. Yeah, this is the name. This is the meaning of the name Raziel. It states that when you write these 3 verses in groups of 3 letters at a time, we are referring here to the name 72, to those triplets. One arrives at the name of 72 letters, as we know, and they help to say great mothers. So it's a beautiful thing that both, again, I'm repeating myself, it's a technique to achieve this prophetic state, to see things and read things, but also through the letters, there is a platform to receive the message, some sort of prophecy, some sort of illumination. So it's on one hand altered state of mind, to put it bluntly, and the platform of receiving the message through the lenses of this altered state of mind. And they held to say great mothers, of which there is no greater thing. This is the ineffable name of Urim and Tumim. Actually, I always love this expression of this ineffable name, that you cannot say it. And then the Kabbalists make the whole effort to say it, actually. They pronounce it, but not pronouncing the name. The same is with as we saw with the technique related to Or HaSechel, just a little bit in a side. The tetragram is, there is absolute taboo not to speak, not to say it out. But the Kabbalists and proto-Kabbalists, they found a way by saying, by pronouncing the name through the division of the vowels, the consonants and vowels. If they are separated, they do not pronounce the name that has this, let's say, ban, not to say it. How is it written? On the other hand, when you divide it, when you deconstruct, then you can have access to expressing it, but avoiding the consequences of the taboo, which is a very Jewish way to solve the problems. If you cannot do it in a whole, cut it to the pieces, and then the pieces are allowed. This is the ineffable name of the Urim and Tumim, which was worn upon the heart of high priests. So we have yet another tradition of identification, but I think this one, I'm coming back to the previous slide, is the strongest because it gives you a geometrical structure, some sort of a platform of the tradition that they prove that this is it. So we have at least three sources. Another one is in Imre Shefer, one of the last books of Rabbi Abulafia, and we actually had this translation quoted in the very beginning on our first meeting, but in different translation. And this is again taken from Moshe Idel. And of this perfect man, it is said, the perfect man is the vision of oneself, because another topic arises here, and we are going gradually towards this direction of speaking about hautoscopy, the vision of oneself. I'm sorry, some angelic form, or our vision of ourselves that is appearing in front of us, and there is a dialogue. We in this special altered state of mind, we speak to each other, to one another, at the imaginary version of us, but at some point the duality of this entity is not sure what is the vision of whom. And the hautoscopy means that there is a fluctuation between objectivity and subjectivity. And also the dialogue is a real dialogue. It's like division of the identity into two, because this tension creates a very specific platform of 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 a mind to achieve the possibility, as the Kabbalists, as the Rav Abulafia and his students say, to achieve the possibility to clinch, to connect to the higher self, identified with angel Metatron, or another of his name, Yahoel, or which is more commonly known, as we will speak about in the future, Gilui Eliyahu, the revelation of the Eliyahu, which is again another pan. The angel here, this angelic form that we are identified with, the higher we, as it's called in the Kabbalistic literature, Yahoel, has the same letters as Eliyahu. So the prophet Elijah is this example. This is the exemplary prophet. Upon whom the biographies and the idea of a perfect prophet is being built on. But there is also further pan that Eliyahu is Yahoel. He is actually the angel Yahoel, which is like connection of the two names within the El, which is Kel, and also Yudke Vavke. So and it's known in the tradition, even from the apocrypha of the biblical literature, apocryphic literature, that this name is appearing there. Also in the Heichalot literature, that this is a synonym for angel Metatron, which is, as we will also speak about it in the future, He is the one just a little bit lower from the name itself, from the Hashem himself, from the God himself. But this is off topic for the moment. So I just gave a little bit digression towards this perfect man that is being visible in front of us. And upon the image of the throne, there sat an image like the image of the man above it. This is the quote from Yecheskel, from Ezekiel, the chapter 1. The whole chapter 1 is the vision of Yecheskel, of this vision of Merkava. And there is a vision of the man. And in some Kabbalistic literature, this man is identified with the angel Metatron. And if the prophet, if the Kabbalist achieve this state of mind, it's his own image. It's the image of the person who is uplifting his consciousness to this level by those techniques, by the techniques of Urim and Tumim, and by the name 72. And it was an image looking like it, and the vision was the image of the glory of God. Again, I hate the word glory. If I see it like this, I know that there is going to be blurry things. It's Kavod Hashem. Kavod is very real thing. It's a dynamis. It's a power. It's a very real, not spiritualized, not very much, let's say, far-fetched from the real object. Kavod Hashem is something heaviness. It's kaved in Hebrew. It means something heavy. Kaved is also the liver in the body of a man, which is full of blood. It's a coagulation. It's actually the aspect of Hashem that has real impact in the world of physicality. The spirituality makes something very impactful in this world, in the one of the lowest, but the most coagulated. So the image of the Kavod Hashem, we have to bear it in mind that this is it's mostly the best to translate it like dynamis, the craft in German, the force, the might, impactful power, something real. And he saw himself as in a clear crystal, and behind that there is a Aramaic expression aspaklaria meira. The clear crystal, it's a technical expression. The Moshe, the Moses, the prophet, the highlight of the prophet, he was looking and connected. He was connected with God through the clear crystal or clear mirror, aspaklaria meira. Whereas all other prophets, according to one of the traditions quoted also by Rashi, are looking through the aspaklaria shchora, which is the dark or darkened mirror, not so much clear. Again, Abulafia is on those sides that claims one can achieve also the level of Moshe. Yeah, so he's very optimistic. As in a clear crystal to the eyes and the heart. And perhaps the Urim and Tumim referred to are the inner ones, for the external ones are also those called, but they are as in an unclear crystal. And unclear crystal is this aspaklaria shchora, this darkened mirror or darkened crystal. You can aspaklaria has double meanings. Either this is something that has a reflective light or light goes through it. But this is an object. This is definitely an object that works with light. Know this and understand this well. And the difference between this and these, and this is important here, this expression this and this, we'll focus on it in a moment, because this is a pun. Abulafia is full of puns and hints, and you cannot read his text just without analyzing what he means by geometrical coding, etc. You will see. This and this cannot be known except to one who has apprehended both of them, and he is one who has apprehended knowledge of threefold unique name. So again, Urim and Tumim is appearing, and the knowledge of the threefold unique name, it's another name for the name 72. So where is the hint? Elle in Hebrew, like this and this, yes, they and they, is here mentioned. These and this cannot be known except of one who has apprehended both of them. So Elle, these and this, and it's 36, and Elle, this and this is 36. Together it's 72. He's just a bit of making a pun that we are talking about the Urim and Tumim and the name 72. And again, as we remember, there are two levels at least when the techniques are evolving. The one that one looks at the specific object that is real in front of us, and this is the first level. But at some point, those things are internalized, and the only matter that we are using is our imagination. So everything is happening with the closed eyes, and the letters are not being read. That they are the Kabbalist, the practitioner of the techniques. He's not looking at the written letters and written name 72. He has it all already internalized in his imagination, and it all happens in the realm of the mind. So where Abulafia is talking about this darkened mirror or darkened crystal, and he's talking about the light crystal, clear crystal, he's talking about the first one is the one that is still related to the physical object of the writing form, and the second one, the clear one, is just the only object is the one that our imagination can visualize. So visualizations, and this is the formulations are still, the expressions are still being made by the voice, and the movements of the head are still bodily, but there is no distraction point by having open eyes and looking at the some manuscript or the book with the tables of those name of 72. No, it's everything happening under the closed eyelids and closed eyes, and the object is only in mind. So here is another quote from the sorry from another book of Abulafia, from the one that is actually the our basis for understanding the name 72. Comprehension of the name by the name, and it is a speculative examination into his name by means of the 22 letters of the Torah after knowledge of the matter of the 10 Sefirot from Aleph to Yod. He is referring to another technique, yes, of those applications of the permutations of every letter by every letter together with the names of the tetragram, which includes all of those which come after them, for they are fulfilled by them, and their forms are called the clear crystal. For all the forms have brightness and strong radiance are included in them, and one who gazes at them in their forms will discover their secret and speak of them, and they will speak of them, and they will speak of him, which already says a little bit that there is a fluctuation of the who is the subject and who is the object. The letters speak to the visioner, and the visioner speaks back to the letters, or expresses them, or he utters them, he speaks them out. And they are like an image in which a man sees all his forms standing opposite him, and then he will be able to see all the general and specific things. This is again taken from the Imre Scheffer. So again, I also brought this quote that this clear crystal, although specifically it's being related to the name 72, it also has the application by the another technique that we just hinted at a little bit, the one from Ora Sehel with the usage of the tetragram. Both of them are working like this, but name 72 is specifically connected to Urim and Tumim. That's why I gave also one of the reasons I gave much more attention to this one. I think in 5 minutes we can have a break. I just want to read the most favorite. Probably you all know it very well. Quote from the Shaarei Tzedek. This is the according to the earliest identification, Moshe Idel said that it was Moshe Shem Tov of Burgos, but in his latest explication, he corrected actually that this anonymous author of Shaarei Tzedek, the Abulafia's disciple, was Moshe Harari. It was different student of Rabbi Abulafia. Well, we follow the latest scholarship of Moshe Idel, but let's read the content here. About the prophet, about the practitioner. If he is able to decide and further continue in letter combination, he shall emerge from within to without. That's also interesting. The internal imagination starts to be projected to the world. And the digression here, this author of Shari Tzedek is beautiful. He speaks about, for example, waking up in the middle of night after practicing, and he sees that there is a light, but he's in the middle of night, and he starts to think maybe there is a fire. He really writes that maybe I left some candle, and at some point he started to understand that there is a body illumination, body photism, that his own body is giving, probably hallucinative, probably not, but he's speaking. I saw that my body is giving light. I see because clearly in the darkness because my body is shining. So they are very, as the yoga practitioner would say, plenty of siddhis, plenty of powers that one can achieve allegedly by practicing those Abulafian practices, and one of them is body photism, which is a topic of itself, why and how. And in Jewish tradition, it's not only in the Kabbalistic lore, it's also in Talmud mentioned many times. This body photism is a very interesting topic. But going back to this fragment, and it will be imagined for him by the power of his purified imagination in the form of a pure mirror, again, aspaklaria meira, or the clear crystal, and this is the shining rotating sword. And this is interesting. We remember that expulsion from Gan Eden caused also this protective angel to be set on the border between our world and Gan Eden. And there was this rotating sword. He was wielding the rotating sword that was shining. And he compares, the student of Abulafia, he compares this mirror to this rotating sword, whose backside turns about and becomes the front, and he recognizes the nature of the innerness from outside, like the image of Urim and Tumim, again, which is the beginning cast light from within. And you shall tell is not straight, but only combines because of it for a form being incomplete, separate from its essence until it is separated and clothed in the form of his imagination. Those are very blurry sentences, but if we just see the gist here, he's trying to express that what is inside goes outside and what is outside goes inside. The object becomes subject. There is a fluctuation between the vision and the visioner, and the vision can also start becoming a speaker, start becoming to be autonomous, starts becoming to be also having its own subjectivity. And therein it joins the letters by a perfect joining order and ready. And this seems to me to be that form which is referred by the Kabbalists as garment. Here the term levush comes in foreground, and it's being quite often used as a synonym for what is also the word tselem, which according to some is astral body, to put it short right now. So this another aspect of us that can go outside of us and start to be autonomous and speak to us. This is a whole topic that we can speak about in digressions. All cultures of the world probably have it. In Mesoamerican, it's about the topic of Nahual. In all those Far East traditions is also being mentioned as a body of light, body of shining, body of loftiness. Topic is blurry because we don't have experimental tools here, but I would follow this path, that if we are actually achieving some sort of outer state of consciousness by any means, there is this recurring in the anthropology of those experiences topic of getting out of the body and looking at the body from the perspective of outside. And what is here achieved by this technique is that both the consciousness in the body and both the consciousness in the so-called astral body have a dialogue. And this dialogue is between one entity divided into two, but one is loftier and one is more, say, incarnated. So here is a summary. I don't want to read the whole text. What time we have? I think, yes, I think after that we can relate again to the Sukkot. What I already mentioned at the very beginning, that the number 216 is also gematria of Gevura, and the mountain of Gevura, and there is this vision of the mountain here, and the vision of the letters can also appear, and there is also this hint towards this. The material of Urim and Tumim is a perfected, so to speak, method that was inherited or taken by the Hebrews from the Egypt. Yosef was first practicing divination and practices with contact with Hashem by the chalice. And there is this known in Egypt known practice. Actually, it is also in Ptolemaic times, so pretty late. But also it is hinted that it's much older. That there was this practice of bringing a young boy, and as we remember, Yosef was pretty young when he was in captivity, according to tradition. The young boy is getting a chalice, and there is water given there, and there is also a layer of the olive oil to stabilize it. And the water and the olive oil is a little bit being shaken, and then the young boy is looking into that, and he starts to see in the lights specific visions. So this is the technique that is Egyptian, and this is um, symbolized by the Nile and by this waking up, what we remember from the last meeting that is in the Torah. However, this 216, when divided into 72 triplets, into Urim and Tumim, into our name of the 72, is becoming a crystal's time. It's the time of the not subordinative to the time that is not subordinative to the fluidity. It's above time. It's like taking the time into its infinite aspect, and also related to the symbolism of the 12 tribes, and also the techniques of divination strictly connected to one god that is, as we believe, supreme in comparison to the other gods. So this is this reformation of 216 to 72. By the way, as I mentioned, 216 being Gevura, if you divide it to 3 times 72 is 3 times Chesed. And as I also mentioned last time, Chesed being a little bit gentle, being a little bit tender. If it's too much or repeated 3 times, it becomes strictness. But every strictness also has a little bit of tint of possibility of becoming tenderness. They are opposite, but actually uh, built up of the same material, but just reconfigured in different way. It's actually quite a nice wisdom in morality and handling with people. All right, I think we can have a break here. I propose that we meet in maybe 7:20, or if you want earlier, 7:20. Yeah, 10 minutes for a coffee. And as much as I am okay, we can prolong also a little bit if we won't be in the full material, because I want to again reconnect to the Sukkot. There is no coincidence in this world, and actually how this ritual of doing movements of the heads here and there up is actually how is it related to this shaking of the lulav and etrog. As I can actually bring my etrog and lulav and show you also my own, and how is it related to the idea of building up the presence of the name uh, in the mind of practitioner. Right. And also some hints from Sefer Haod again. How is it encoded? All right. So let's meet in 7:20. All right. Thank you.
Hey.
Hey.
Hello.
I
If
would
we
have,
have, yes, if you have any questions, please.
yeah, I would have one question. I think when it comes to manuscripts of students or practitioners of Abulafian practices, usually there is the gate of righteousness, the one you showed before, and there is one of Albottini, but there are not
But this is,
many. Yeah.
yes, Rafa Bultini is, but it's very late. He's not
Mhm.
direct student of Abulafia. It's 16th century rabbi, Sulam Ha'aliyah by Bultini. And yes, but what is the question?
Yeah, would you say, do you think there are way more manuscripts, but they're just not researched? So we just see the tip of the iceberg? Or do you think that's what actually left and the others have been destroyed, or they're just notes that our Kabbalists took, but they didn't really integrate in a bigger body of writings? Yeah.
So yeah, the question is already answered by your question. It's a complex topic because we can always say that there will be something found. There are plenty. Moshe Idel also shared it with me with private conversation. There are plenty of manuscripts in many different libraries. For example, in Munich, uh, there are supposed to be around 10,000, more or less, estimation folios, like loose folios also, uh, which is just preliminary identified as the Hasidei Ashkenaz literature, but we always find a different strange codex. If this is a manuscript from the 15th century, we are very lucky, but most of them are 16th century. The earlier were destroyed for many reasons, also age. There are many unidentified manuscripts. And even these days, people are finding, like Moshe Idel, they are redefining the identification, the the application of a specific text to someone. Even 10 years ago, 20 years ago, someone was claiming that one text of Abulafia Nero Elohim is his own, but now the consensus is that it looks like that this is of his student. There is also a short booklet, Sefer HaMelamed, which also was about Sholem initially ascribed to Abulafia, but now it's also being mentioned that this is one of the anonymous students, but direct students. Regarding your questions, if there are more, probably yes, probably more of the manuscripts and knowledge about more students. Probably yes, we learn by them by just having luck or finding them by the minute checkup of the specific manuscripts that lead further to another manuscripts. Like we had at the very beginning of our meeting, that we learned that there was a student in the 19th century and he was not anonymous. We could find him. He was a historical figure living 100 years ago in Paris, and he mentioned that he studied Abulafia at this and this time of a year. And but regarding those known students, I think the answer is majority of the identification is already done because um, because you can see it by the number of manuscripts. Sefer Haot is in very low number. It's only 8 or 9. One person claims that there is 9. I haven't seen the copy of the ninth, but it doesn't change anything because the oldest ones are from the Vatican and they are from the between 15th and 16th century. And they are actually, according to my analysis, the editio princeps, the basis for editio princeps, just the oldest, the best, and they show actually the data that are repeated in the older ones. And this is what we are supporting our knowledge on this specific book. However, Hayeh Haolam about this handbook of the technique of name 72 is, as far as I remember, I just taking out memory, it's in around 120 different manuscripts. So the copies were pretty much proliferated. We can multiply it by 3, I would say, easily, to say that 3 times it was around 500 copies or even more. And the extant to our times are 120, more or less. Also, the big numbers of Ora Sechel. And again, as per the students, some started to publish their own So they were doing excerpt, like Rav Yehuda al-Butini. Yes, the Sephardic rabbi, he just made a compilation out of the techniques of Rav Abulafia, and he just wrote a booklet called Sulam HaAliyah, the ladder of ascension, and this is the elaboration of the techniques. Pardes Rimonim by Rav Moshe Cordovero Ramak also contains whole chapter Gate 21 in his book, contains the whole exposure of the techniques and system of Rav Abulafia. And I would say that these come to my mind, the first ones. There is another parallel stream, which is Christian Kabbalah, so-called. Well, Abulafia was translated by Flavius Mithridates, and this was subsidized by Pico della Mirandola. And the first book by Abulafia was Liber Redemptionis, which is Sefer Geulah, which is this short booklet commentary on Sefer Yetzirah, as far as I remember. And yeah, this is pretty early, and I'm not an expert in this branch in the translations, but if we would we would check the literature by Chaim Wierszubski, who was a specialist in Christian Kabbalah, we would probably find some sort of info, how many manuscripts and how much it was proliferated. Well, this branch, both Rav Abulafia and late Rav Gikatila, his student for 2 years, Rav Gikatila, is also known in this Portelucis, this famous translation to Latin, which is Sharei Ora, but this is exposure of the Theosophical Kabbalah, this Sephirotic Kabbalah. Again, it was translated to Latin. So, in a nutshell, my answer would be like this. How many unidentified students are there which we do not know? I would say not so many, because more or less the literature is more or less indexed. I would say 95% is indexed. I would say there is a chance that we will find those lost or semi-lost prophetic books by Rav Abulafia somewhere, but if they were in a very few copies by the end of his life, and then there was this harem by Rashba, especially related to those prophetic books, then it might be problematic. If there was no this passing through the bottleneck and proliferation by the external groups who were not concerned about the harem, then the things like proliferation of those manuscripts like Chai Haolam Haba or Hasechel would happen, and despite the harem, they were copied in hundreds. But if there is a question of certainty 100%, we cannot be certain. And I would assume that, yeah, the problem is why we are not certain, because how academia works. Academia works in a very strange way these days. Even 30 years ago, 40 years ago, there was still a classic, as I mentioned, classic requirement that someone who enters into the academia, a doctorate or postdoctorate or something before doctorate, should be a critical edition of one of the texts. And this is what Moshe Idel did, this is what Gershom Scholem did, Elliot Wolfson, probably every one of the luminaries of our days. They had this stage of this painstaking work of one of the texts. Why? Because you contribute to your database. And also you learn the drill. You learn how to be in a detail. Then you can write books about synthesis or whatever, but you know that actually there are detailed things to be found in the manuscripts. You know how to operate with them. And all of those people mentioned, they really stress that this is necessary. This habit, this custom is lost. The academia world has this tendency to immediately push towards, I don't criticize, but I am not so much related. Writing immediately about gender topic, or writing immediately about feminism, or about the minorities, or interreligious dialogue here and there, or how how the Kabbalah is related to others. It's just the topics are also important, but they are already from the level of synthesis. And I'm sorry to say, some of those scholarships, when you use very much this kind of intensifying glass, you see that they're losing connection to the details. They are making synthesis based on some vapor, and there is no grounding in understanding what is there below. And I also mentioned at the very beginning to Valerie when we spoke just before we started that, and Francesco, just one of the best times for me was just really to spend almost a year on Sefer Haot on a minute checking of the manuscripts here and there, and fascinating delving. As you remember, on the first session, I also shown you the finding out that there was a meditation on a flower. Yes, that this davach, this orchid, was actually the topic, not dvaro, which everyone till that time thought that this is a contamination of the text, and that's it, and it was skipped. But if you got into the detail, you found out important thing. Okay, this is very extensive answer. I don't know if it's fine or more or less. I just want to focus a little bit right now on the topic of the name of 72 involves this movement of the head, and it's building up, as I said, this kind of sphere around, because it's about the breathing out in the 6 directions: zenit, nadir, 4 directions, front, back, and left and right. But it's also about this temporality. This front and back is also about past, present, and future. And the similar thing we have also with this tradition of lulav, which is ancient one. Yes, this is the lulav. This is arba minim, the 3 different species: the palm, the hadassim, the willow, bundled with some specific knots, and also this kind of citrin, which is actually, this one is stemming from Calabria. This is a very specific one. This is not just a citron, this is etrog, but this is very specific one, which our custom asks us to take only that grow in Calabria in a specific species of those, because they are representing the best connection to the core. So I'm actually every day doing this kind of movements, like 3 times here, 3 times right, left, up, down, and also to the back. And this is connected to the utterances of the words that we will see soon, and they are also connected to the name 72. I wrote about it, the hints about it in my work on Sefer Haot, and I was talking about it to Moshe Dillon, and he said, yes, you should translate it, you should put it into English, and yeah, it's still waiting. As you probably notice, I also try to give a little bit in our meetings something that is of value added. I mean, those things that I'm not saying that they are unique, that I found them, but I didn't see them in the literature. I saw them in the Abulafia, but because I'm also a religious Jew, some sort of a synthesis came to me. And I try to give those things. I try not to repeat the scholars, because we all can find the literature in English in abundance. But in relation to the name 72, how is it also organized and connected to the specific ritual of building up the sphere of the space? To the best of my knowledge, it was not mentioned before that in Sefer Haot, in Abulafia, there is this the stress that it's connected to this idea, to the ritual connected of the Sukkot, and the ritual connected to the specific utterances in the Hallel ritual. Hallel is the specific prayer that is only said during the holidays. It's like praising of Hashem, and there are very, I would say, safely theological statements. I don't want to say magical, theological, yes. Like there is a drawing down of the presence of Hashem, and also bringing up empowerment from the people of Israel towards Hashem, like dialogue of empowerment. So the movements of what I also shown you outside of the presentation are also related to those movements that in our technique. As I said, A is the movement right, E is left, O is up, E is down, and U is front and back. And I gave you examples in those triplets here, again, excerpts from the name 72. Again, I took liberty of copying something from the internet. I'm a huge fan, to reiterate again and again. All our spirituality comes from body. I'm a huge fan of William Blake and the book Marriage of Heaven and Hell. And there is the statement that the speaker, the narrator of this poem, long prose poem, he says that at some point the religions start to be oppressive and people forget that all deities reside in the human heart, that actually all we start, the sublime things, all we have is our body. Since the time immemorial, since the beginning of mankind, we started to project the spiritual models through our body. This is what we have. We have hands, and as I mentioned some time ago, probably on the first session, our hands are modeled by 10, so we have tendency to see 10, but also we are modeling in our hands the divisions of our fingers to 12, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 4 fingers, and the thumb is to be used for counting. So we were using this as counting 12, and then using second hand to pass first 12 to here. So it was 5 times 12, 60. The division of 60 and 12 stems from this, from using our hands for calculative manners. And our thumb is also having division to 2 of those segments. So together it's 14. And not by chance, in Hebrew, hand is being called yad, which is gematria 14, yud, dalet, 10 and 4. And when you see the Hasidim from Bratslav, they are clapping hands because this brings 14 and 14 koach, the strength. And also it's gematria of Be Hashem, Be Yudke Vavke, in Be 2 in 26, togetherness. Plenty of examples that you can find, and they are just known that this is not just later application of explanation, is just stemming from the times of immemorial. We start the spiritual from the body. So by doing those things with the name 72 and by doing those things with the lulav, it's a little bit of putting things into the sphere around us. And as I mentioned, some of the people, also one person that wants to be anonymous, a scholar, he says that whenever he's practicing even those basic things of Abulafia just to relax, he has this feeling that the sphere, like of some sort of lightning color, is start to surround him because of these motions, the motions up and down here. You have a feeling that there is some sort of a bubble being created, imaginary bubble. Again, right now I want to focus how our technique is rooted in the Sukkot and has some messianic notions of redemption, of what does it mean redemption and messianic in a context aside of political notion, is something of self-salvation, of uplifting the consciousness to the higher, not so crude realms, to be into more sublime way of being, to be not dependent on the crude matter so much, to be not dependent on our basic needs, but just to uplift the body to some other higher possible dimensions, and also our mind. This is the topic of our future meetings about the complex symbolism, which Abulafia calls the war of the blood and the ink, dam vedeo. And I will speak about it when we will talk about it more extensively about Sefer Haot. Dam, which is blood, represents the crude matter, And Deo, in Hebrew, Atram and Ink, represents what you can do with your blood, your potential, changing the potentiality to actualization of spirituality. And is also hinted at in the word dam, which means blood, the word dimion, which is like imagination. And the word of the dimion is also connected by Abulafia to the word demon, which is like the world of illusions, world of being in the perplexion, in the mode of insecurity, inability to see things light. Whereas Va Deo has the gematria of 26, is pointing to, again, to the name of Hashem. So just hinting in at, but going back from this digression to our topic. I would like us to focus on those two. The first one is Vaheva, and the 37th is Anui, but it also can be spelled Ani, which means me. By the way, some of those triplets actually have meanings. Like the last triplet, it means mum, if you read it other way around, which means impure, or mum, it means not impure, imperfect. So there are some risks here. How would you like to read those things or not? You have also here this one, which I'm pointing, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth below in the first column is Yud He Vav. You have to be very careful with pronouncing this, because you might be too close to pronouncing the name that you shouldn't pronounce in a fullness, because there is this restriction not to say it in a fullness. But now we focus on those two. Why? Because there is this beautiful infrastructure below. And I hope you are not scared about it, but this is the best way I can explicate it. There is a statement in Sefer Haot that use those puns. But let's just read it first. Amar Hashem Elokei Israel, al tir'u me'oyev, ki ani vahu, nilchamim bo lehatzil lachem mitachad yado. Spoke to me then in these words, Hashem, Elokei Israel, do not be afraid of the enemy, because I, Vaheva, we will fight. This is a plural form. We will fight him to save you from his hand. You, I mean the people of Israel. So, the translations of all Sefer Haot that I saw to English, better or worse, whatever, they are translating it like this. But every translation is a lie, they say. And especially in the Abulafia, you just have to have a lot of footnotes to explain what is there, and choose something that is, according to literal mode, applicable and has some meaning, but you just cannot leave it like this. What is this Vaheva? Well, this is our triplet here. And what is this Ani Vaheva? He's hinting about those two. And why those two? Because this is also constituting the middle. The 37 is the beginning of the second part, yeah? And we remember from a little bit here earlier, he's speaking about the first part is giving you this look through the dark crystal, and then there's uplifting. After the second part, you are starting to see better. There is some hint at progression. Another thing what is being hinted here is that those two, if you combine them, this is very beautiful. It's like beauty, I cannot explain it. It's just there. This in our tradition, it's thousands of years before Abulafia. If you combine those two by gematria, you have 78. And if you combine also another version on another holidays, because there are two versions. One is for Hoshanot on Sukkot, what we are saying every day today. We said it also today in the morning in the synagogue. But also every day there is a Hallel when there is a holiday, and it's also in different version. It's Ana and the name of Hashem. So what we can see here is a free time encodement of the Yudke Vavke of the tetragram, 3 times tetragram. And this is another digression here. Abulafia was very popular among Christian readers. They just love this, his seemingly present obsession about three. Threefold this, threefold that, threefold here, threefold Hashem. So there is a statement here and there that Abulafia was definitely hinting at Trinity. How to corroborate it, especially with the, as we will see in future meetings, with the a little bit problematic relationship, at least ambiguous relationship to Christianity from Abulafia. Well, only if someone has a very good will about it and a lot of hopes. Then again, the Trinity and the tripletness and something triple is inherent in a Judaism, and because Christianity is a part of Judaism, is also stemming. It's like a branch of Judaism. With all due respect, I would say there is no problem that actually those similarities are happening here. But what is important for me is that this is a synthesis. This is a hint that Abulafia wants to say. Pronunciation of the name of 72 is also all the time in relation to the tetragram. However, you can see it only when you go into very much focus on the infrastructure of the how it's structuralized. And part of Abulafia, I didn't find such a nice insights about connection of the name 72 and tetragram. So here I would like to show you, I will come back to the previous slide. This is an excerpt from the Siddur, from the prayer book. You have above the version that is on Sukkot, Ani Vahu, and here actually this is very interesting. They give the hint, כצריך להגיד ולא בחולם. So they mean that they actually prevent here in Siddur to pronounce it as it should be by the technique of the name 72. So there is a self-censorship in the Siddur. Ani vahu, it means like this, you know, but it should be ani vaho, va heva or va heva, yeah. But it's vaho. It should be with cholam, and they say here no, don't say it with cholam, because the practice of in general outside is not an intimate, so to speak, mystical or ecstatic prophetic technique. It's actually a self-aware commentary, I would say. I cannot trace it down, but I suspect that this is actually very conscious comment here that's saying don't pronounce it with the cholam up, pronounce it with the u, because it serves for the communal ritual, not the meditative practice. And the statement is ani vahu hoshiana. I or ani, the triplet ani, and then triplet vahu va. Save me, please. And the same is also happening on Hallel. The lower part is Ana Hashem Hoshiana, Ana Hashem Hoshiana, Ana Hashem Hatzlichana, Ana Hashem Hatzlichana. Is repeated 4 times, and actually after the Chazan, after the leader of the prayer, is in total 8 times. So this and Yud Ke Vav Ke, but here represented only by the 2 Yudim, because every Siddur wants to keep as less as possible full utterances of the name tetragram, so that if the book is, for example, falls on the floor or is being contaminated, it doesn't make the blasphemous action with the name of tetragram. That's why the abbreviated forms Yud Yud is appearing here and in many Siddurim, in many books. But actually this part, this Ani and Ana Yud Ke Vav Ke and Ani Vahu has the same gematria and is pointing to the same. But only on Sukkot it's a little bit different. Why also? Because Sukkot serves, and I didn't put it in any slide, but I just want to add this commentary. Sukkot is the holiday predominantly focused on what the Jews, the Hebrews, are giving to the world. It's all this in the times of the temple. There were sacrifices for all the nations of the world, and Sukkot was about what in some kind of relationship, but a little bit contrary to the Pesach. Pesach is about getting out of this world, getting out of the Mitzrayim, from the bondage of the specific land to our land. But then when we have our land and we dwell in those temporary temporary huts called sukkah, not tents, but some sort of huts, we are actually giving blessing to the world back, so that the world is being nourished by our specific bond with the Hashem. That's the whole idea here. And it's also hinted at that this name 72, the technique, is also having this prophetic mode. It's not magical mode. It's not to create a mag. It's not to create a person who is only thinking about own spiritual growth. It's about being a prophet. It means also to inspire others, to move forward, to teach others. This was the mission of Abulafia all the time. So I also hinted on the second side, different gematria that are part of the ongoing symbolism and ongoing contextual plays and hints and some sort of word plays and relationship within each other in all the literature of Abulafia, that the gematria of 52 is predominant. It's twice Yudke Vavke, so it's hinting at also at the sun. So the whole concept of Christian Kabbalah is also stemming from this idea that twice the name of Hashem is the Son. So all the statement Son of God is not just like that. It's just stemming from this duplication of the Hashem that is transcendent and Hashem who is immanent. And the whole concept how to combine both. And in Christianity, the whole notion, for me, Christianity is basically the Sadduceeism applied into belief of reality of the human sacrifice. The human in a having immanent God decides to be sacrificed by his own will. And this is the idea of the offerings, and the Sadduceeism is wholly based, or was wholly based upon that. Instead of animals, give the highest of the uplifted animals, highest of the highest animals, which is the man, and do something about it. Well, rabbinical Judaism is going a little bit different path, and what I can say the best, from my perspective, how I treat the at least theoretical Christianity, it's this idea of human sacrifice, self-sacrifice, of someone who chooses to be sacrificed in order to help others. And then I already mentioned Yahuel and Eliyahu, which is actually they are anagrams of each other. We'll speak about it further because it will be topic of Sefer Haot. And I mentioned here already endophatic relationships. Why? Because those Anivahu and Ana and Hashem, they speak to each other. And not only Kabbalist is speaking with his own representation outside, also within the name of God, there is a endophatic realm. He's speaking with himself. Not today, but the whole concept is that he's speaking with Yudke, is speaking with Vavhe, and vice versa. And the whole idea, who is this enemy and why we have to save from his hand, that's the topic of eschatological aspects in Abulafia. And again, it's also present in the Sidurim in our days. All the time we speak about the hand that was covering part of Hashem name, and hand that took out the temple and removed the presence. So the hand is and the oyev, the enemy, is being hinted at here at. In short, what I can say, the division and the completion of the tetragram Yudke Vavke, and the division and completion of the segmentation of the name 72 is because of the influence of the enemy, so to speak. Enemy inherent in creation, created by Hashem himself, but from the level of creation, Hashem has to play his own rules. So that's why, otherwise the world would cease to exist if he would apply immediate solution. So within the historiosophy, within the history, the fight with the enemy in order to unify the name Yudke Vavke and to go over this division is ongoing. And Abulafia believed that it will end during his lifetime, but apparently it didn't. But they say every generation there is potential to end the history. And here I would like to a little bit conclude, which I already promised. And this is a little bit off topic, but not off topic, but related to what we are saying about already. I segued kind of naturally to that. That we entered the year 5786. And this is an excerpt from the latest, very short article by Moshe Idel. But I just wanted to give it here because when I was on a conference 2018 in Hamburg, we spoke about Abulafia and his influence on Rambam, not Rambam, sorry. Rambam was earlier, Maimonides was earlier, but the further philosophers and further Kabbalists actually inspired in the end Spinoza's pantheism. The idea that God in the aspect of the name Elohim is Hateva, the nature. So what I mentioned here, that God in the nature is divided. He's divided in the immanent state. According to this notion, he is present in every biological form. But just imagine how much infinite aspect or entity or being or super being, like, or there is no word for that, but imagine the consciousness of God, how it can feel to be entrapped, for example, in the cell of bacteria, the immanence being brought to that form. It's like this Simpson, the oppression of the utmost contradiction, like the infinity being placed in the biological form of a basic biological cell, which is so far away from transcendent, not dependent on the creation, outside of the creation consciousness. I'm talking about Abulafian's two notions. This is not so much addition from my side or any kind of interpretation. The beauty of is just, again, we entered the year which ending is 86, which is the gematria of Elohim. Elohim is Hateva, the nature. And in 2018, we were discussing with Maimonidean scholars, different scholars, and Moshe Idel really said something nicely, that he himself, he couldn't trace it earlier. Who is mentioning this gematria? But definitely he traced down later that Baruch Spinoza was inspired by that. So I have a question to you, just open question. How many of the professors, when you entered into studies about Baruch Spinoza, who actually mentioned that actually the idea of Spinoza is stemming from the Kabbalistic notion and of gematria? And every child is following Rashi and also reading, I don't know, Anya. Like, how about children? At the age of 8 and 9, they know it. But when I was studying in a university and I was exposed to philosophy, and I was exposed by some professor who was outside of the Jewish lore, he was speaking about Spinoza, totally lack of awareness about it, that the root is here, and it again speaks to us how much we have to go back to the roots, to search, dig, where is the root of that? And the root is in this idea why we can compare Elohim, the aspect of God in the name of Elohim, to the nature. And it's speaking through the aspect of what does it mean teva. The root teva is stemming from the idea of being sunk, being drowned. Litboa means to drown. Litboa is to dive into. So nature is the place where of transformation of from the stages, from the most subtle to the most crude, of transcendence of God into the creation to the most crude. And he's going down into the dispersion, from unity to the dispersion of each of us. There is the presence of some sort of particle of transcendence, but this is becoming immanent, not imminent. So the concept of God's suffering and the suffering because of this division is infinite suffering within, is stemming from this being drowned into the nature. It's kind of voluntarily. So Hashem suffers his contraction from within the world, being submerged within the nature as the only Elohim stemming from infinity, because he's the only one. The others, gods, they are part of the creation. They do not suffer this kind of dispersion. They are locally responsible for each nation. But the Hashem, as in an aspect of Elohim, he is there. He is in an ever-living form, which has this belief causes infinite pain when infinite is drowned in the finitude, contrary to the other Elohim that are constitutive part of the world itself. I quoted myself here from the future text from one of the best interpreters of Kabbalah, Oscar Goldberg. Once it's published, I will share it. And maybe we'll have future sessions about Oscar Goldberg, by the way, but that's another topic. But Oscar Goldberg served a lot also to me to methodologically grasp Abulafian aspects, because it's just very, very good but forgotten scholar of Kabbalah and scholar of Jewish and Hebrew lore. And again, I repeat here from this paper by Prognostication in the Medieval World. If someone wants, I can share this book, because it's really like it has 1,500 pages, but we need here only 2 pages out of it. And yeah, I wanted to leave you a little bit hint of that, because next time we will be speaking about segueing towards another topic of how Abulafia influenced. I hope there was not too much chaotic digressions, but if you have any questions, please, we already have 8, but if you wish, please. Thank you so much from my side for today.
Well, first, thank you so much for everything
Thank you,
you shared. My question is more for the future. If there is a third workshop for Kabbalah in Barcelona or Girona, I was only in the first one, so I don't know about the second, but do you plan to have any course about Abulafia, Sefer Yetzirah, or Azriel of Girona, which are my 3 interests? Do you have anything in your future plans about any?
You need to be present there in person, yes, to come there.
And teach some.
I would love to. 2 years ago, I wasn't unable, and eventually I didn't present anything because we didn't sync up properly, and I thought that I might have something like a Zoom, but it's honestly, I will tell you, it's about costs, and I have obligations here. If I can be relieved from my duties here and also supported and go there and do not have any, let's say, logistical problems by physically moving to Barcelona or to Girona for a week or half a week, I would do it. If not, I plan to do something probably with Zeth, at least Zoom-like,
Okay.
And I would love to come. Yes, I would
like
like to. But Azur of Girona, I am not. Of course, I am aware about his ideas, but I am not studying specifically him. And they are much better scholars who are just have some value added to say apart from the works, apart from the literature. As I mentioned, I don't try to. Sometimes I have to repeat and quote others, but I try to also put it into some sort of interpretation or some sort of context that I know that most probably is not proliferated so much, and to give a little bit new food for thoughts. That it's called in Jewish tradition, a chidush, a novelty, something that is there, but each of us have something new to say about the topics we study. And this is valuable to share those things. So if you ask me to do something new about Sefer Yetzirah, I would rather. You just feel that there are much better scholars who already can say something about. I can prepare something, and I can prepare, yeah, but it would require a specific focus on that. I feel rather like not comfortable, but pretty confident with Rav Abulafia, because it constantly is in my mind. So here and there, I can specifically prepare something. But then again, my current research and my current, for example, assignment is right now I'm writing a huge commentary to the Sot HaNachash of Rav Gikatila, the secret of the serpent, and I'm totally in the symbolism of a serpent. So if it's also interesting, I probably would like to do something that I am currently involved every day. And another topic is Oscar Goldberg, his hermeneutics of gematria, and how actually we are trying to revive his memory. He's a 20th century scholar that was put to the oblivion mainly because of Gershom Scholem and Thomas Mann and other people who just didn't want him to be known. But there is a group of people that is working to revive his memory about him and publish things. You can find those things in my academia edu profile. So, and some of those things I already shared. Yeah. So, but yeah, I would like to come. I think it was just we have to fix it with Zev. Okay, so next time we are going to meet and speak about. I think that this is already about Christianity, Islam, and Judaism in Abulafia. I would again propose it in a way that is interesting and outside of the literature already that is known, because some of the things I think should be more stressed and others can be just skipped. But yeah, okay, let's just see. I'm still working on the presentation for the next week. Each time I'm reworking and making it fresh. So yeah. But if you have any proposal, what you would like to ongoing to this course, to these meetings, have, and we have still time, I can do it. So please share it also in correspondence, please. Okay. Valerie, would you like to ask also some question? I can see that you're.
No, another question, just to reaffirm your view on Spinoza. I mean, only when getting access to direct Jewish scholars, I could get rid of my training in the university about Spinoza, pantheism, and the rationalism. I mean, now I'm much more clear about that. Obviously, I do not know the grounds of the text and everything. There is one thing. Uh, Maybe in some of the sessions, I don't know, but I would like to see your views on, maybe Abulafia is one of them, but must be within Kabbalah, a sense of reconstruction. Let's say, I don't know exactly the word. How Kabbalah, or in the case of Abulafia, is there a possibility to consider that the technique helps not only to grow, but to recover from a state of difficulty, in the sense that, I mean, uh, for me, Kabbalah has a very specific individual direction, decision of getting immediate contact with the strength of divinity. Of course, there is a method, but there is not this systematic approach of other Kabbalists with the ritual and with the mitzvot, the meanings of the mitzvot, etc. So it looks, Abulafia looks like more immediatist in this sense, and I wonder if the vision of Kabbalah helping him to drive recovering from, let's say, trauma of angst, or that type of experience, which looks like so individual with him, looking for traveling around from very young age, looking for something that is missing. And I don't know, this is more or less the idea, and if you had some views on that, maybe I would be very happy to listen to you.
It's a very beautiful invitation for a great dialogue, and of course, yeah, it's there. Abulafia means Abu Alafia, the father of health, and Abulafia is self-referring all the time about it. That this path, being in contact with, in closeness to Hashem, to God, it already means some sort of higeia, some sort of, in the Pythagorean sense, some sort of spiritual health being present. So his life was a part of this, I definitely feel that there was some trauma that was pushing him here and there to search, because the trauma is usually our basic fuel to search. And then at some stage of his life, he is self-referring that he's getting this serenity a bit, especially after this not fulfilled encounter with the Pope. And he actually, last his years, he's dropping down this notion of political activism.
Yeah. Okay.
He's giving his serenity. How is it? Yes, I think the last session is exactly the point when I will include your comment in. I will try to include it in some extension when we speak about hautoscopy and endophagia, and I
Okay.
will put a lot of neurocognitive material, because we just, in order to understand Abulafia's his vision, why you have to push yourself to the limits of your hyperactivation of the mind to allegedly get this vision of the separation and see your own doppelganger, your own vision of yourself speaking to you, and to integrate it. How is it helping? Whereas neurocognitive studies and neuropsychiatry speaks that people are suffering from this when there is acute situation like that. And we have reports of people spontaneously having that, and they are definitely not healthy. But we are talking about self-inflicted ritualistic based methodology to put it to get such a state. And the idea is, the desideratum is to reintegrate. So I think this is, if it's fine with you, Valerie, this is our last session, the
Very good.
conclusion
Very
session.
good. Excellent.
But as you can see, I am in everyone. I am a little bit hinting at what will be in future, because you just cannot separate it. And also, sometimes I really change spontaneously something in a slide. I think, okay, I can say something dry. I just try to be a little bit involved, what is also fitting what I feel to say. Because there is a truth of authenticity more when there is a personal touch. This is what I believe. This is how I am. All right, so I will keep it in mind, and I propose it to the last session, but probably because you already inspire, even in the next session, because the next session is not only about Christianity and Islam, it's also about the impact on the Western culture. So I would like to speak also about writers like science fiction writer Philip Dick, and his very nice story about how he was inspired by Abulafia. And he had friends who were studying Abulafia in California. And his book, Valis, is all about getting health from the schizophrenia. I don't know if you read this, but I recommend you to read it, because this is the book I read in one day.
Good.
Yeah, it's a very funny but also very interesting thing. Like, over the centuries, you can actually have those inspirations by Abulafia, and here and there, there are plenty of actually influences on Abulafia on Western culture, and I will include them also at some point, also probably next session. The impact on Western culture of Abulafia, and yeah, okay.
Marvelous. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for extended time a bit. I hope it's not too much. All right, and I would like to thank you so much for being with me, and for our colleagues. We have a recording; they can witness our dialogue. We started with dialogue, we finished with dialogue. Thank you. Have a nice time. Good Sukkot. Chag Sameach. Moadim Lesimcha. All the best. Bye bye.